Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the last video that I will make, and in this case, it will be lesson plan number 5, and we're going to talk about the past participle verbs using whether. And this class is going to last, like always, 45 minutes. Um, it's going to be for the first grade of high school students. And the proficiency level of the students will be a 2.2. As always, we're going to have our classes TFL objectives. And in this case, in listening, the students will be able to tell and react to news. In speaking, the students will be able to describe natural disasters and extreme weather. In reading, the students will be able to talk about inventors, inventions, artists, and artwork. In writing, the students will be able to write about a natural disaster. As always, we're going to use 2 methodologies and 2 strategies. The first methodology that we will use will be audiolingual method, and the second one is communicative language approach. We're going to use 2 strategies, and the first one is react to news, and the other is share their favorite weather on the walls. So we're going to have an anticipatory set, and in this case, the teacher presents several slides where the student must try to guess the name of the natural disaster. Their answers are checked along, and spelling and pronunciation are reinforced for a better understanding, comprehension, and assimilation of new vocabulary. So here the teacher is going to present several slides where there are going to be different natural disasters. The students are going to try to guess the name of the disaster that they have seen, and they're going to write it down. After this, of course, the teacher is going to go over what the students have written and go over the correct ways of spelling, the correct ways of writing, and the correct way of pronunciation. So this way the student will have a better understanding and a better comprehension, and assimilation of a new vocabulary that they will be learning. For pronunciation, maybe the teacher can try with drilling, which is another thing we can do. And this will help students have the correct pronunciation. And I think that's it for the anticipatory set. Okay, so now we're going to start the class up, and as always, we're going to start the class with a warm-up activity. In this case, the teacher hangs on the different on walls different natural disasters that can happen, and asks the students to relate possible weather circumstances that can lead to those natural disasters. Okay, so here the teacher is going to hang out different natural disasters such as earthquake, hurricanes, and floods, maybe, or volcano eruptions, and things like that. And the students are going to try to make a connection between what weather possible can have the effect of the natural disaster. For example, if the teacher shows the students a picture of a flood, what circumstances leads to a flood? In this case, will be a rainy weather. So in such things, he will continue doing that for each natural disaster picture the teacher has hung up on the wall. Okay, so after this, the teacher presents some brief news through a listening activity on natural disasters that have happened throughout the last century. And here we're going to look at audiolingual method. Then he provides the corresponding text. Okay, so here the teacher is going to present a listening activity of a newscast on a natural disaster that has happened, like a really long time ago. And here I put it last century. The student is going to he's going to listen to what the audio says, and maybe he's going to take notes. The student is going to take notes about maybe something he did not understand, maybe something he found interesting, some word that he did not understand from the listening activity. And as always, like I said before, here we can find that there is the audio lingual method, because students practice their listening skills. So since the students are going to make notes in general of what they heard, what they did not understand, maybe a word that they missed, um, after this, the teacher asks the students, he provides a corresponding text of what they heard. So this time, the same thing that the students heard, they will have in a sheet of paper that is written, so students can read this time. This time they will read. After, I think the audio can be played at least 2 times for the students to have a clear idea of what they were listening to. And now they're going to read the same thing, so they can make a connection, maybe something that they missed, something they did not understand, maybe in they can put in practice their reading skills, and maybe they're better at reading than in listening, so then they can understand maybe better. So after this, the teacher asks the students to highlight the verbs which are on the past participle form. Then they go over some of these verbs. Okay, so now the students are going to highlight the verbs that are in the text, but this time in past participle. So after this, the teacher is going to go over these verbs. Maybe he's going to put the different verbs up on the whiteboard. Maybe he's going to make a connection between the verb in past simple, the verb itself as it is, the verb in past simple, and the verb in past participle. So this way the students can have a clear idea and find the difference of how the verbs can be used. After this, the teacher provides the students with a set of pictures with 5 natural disasters. So each student is going to be handed out a sheet of paper with 5 different natural disasters. After this, the teacher asks the students to write news about the natural disaster and share them with their peers. Okay, so now the students, out of all the 5 things that the teacher had given them in the pictures, they will choose only one, and they're going to write a news of that natural disaster, where it happened, when did it happen. But of course, we are going to use it in past participle verbs, which is what we were looking at from the beginning. After this, the students are going to share with their peers what they have written about. Of course, I think personally that I would maybe pair up students that do not have that haven't chosen the same natural disaster. I mean, maybe I will mix up a student with an earthquake with a hurricane, or maybe with a flood, but not students that have the same that have chosen the same natural disaster. This way they can practice listening to, and even reading. Maybe they can ask them to read, and can you lend me your passage so I can read it, your newscast, I'm sorry. So they can practice different things, if different opinions, different stories, and things like that. Okay, so in modeling, the teacher gives the students his own writing news on a natural disaster. The teacher explains the length that is needed and the verbs that they can use. So as always, as teachers, we must have a model for students to use it. And in this case, it will be a natural disaster, and the teacher will write his own news, so the students will have an idea of what they're going to write, how they're going to write. And of course, maybe he can list the most common verbs in this case that will be used to make the news of the natural disaster. In guided practice, the teacher and the students highlight the verbs in the past participle. In independent practice, the students go around the classroom looking at the writings. They ask and answer questions about the news on natural disaster. So maybe they can ask questions. The other student must know, since they have written news, how to answer. They're going to answer. They're going to interact. In assessment, the teacher collects the writings and grades it based on a rubric. As always, we're going to have a rubric to to score. And that's it for the last video of my fifth lesson plan.